And I represent Legislative District 13, which is North Omaha and Northeast Douglas County, and I serve as the Chair of Urban Affairs. We will start off having members of the committee introduce themselves and staff do self-introduction, starting to my right with Senator Breezy.
Tom Breezy, I represent District 41.
I'm Megan Hunt, and I represent District 8 in Midtown Omaha.
Trevor Fitzgerald, Committee Legal Counsel.
Matt Hanson, District 26 in Northeast Lincoln.
John Arch, District 14, Papillion, La Vista, and Sarpy.
And John Lowe, the southeast half of Buffalo County.
And Antonita Pierre-Lewis, Committee Clerk.
Thank you. Also be assisting the committee are our committee pages. Rista, she's not here. How do you say her last name? Reese Yanakis. From Lincoln, who is a political science and economic major, and Kennedy Richard from Lincoln, who is also a political science major at UNL. In light of COVID and the pandemic, we respectfully request you wear a mask or face covering while in the hearing room. Testifiers may remove their masks during the testimony to assist the committee members from hearing and transcribers from hearing and understanding the testimony correctly. This afternoon, we will have 4 bills, and we'll be taking them up in the order listed outside the room. On the table near the rear entrance, you will find blue testifier sheets. If you are planning on testifying today, please fill out one of those and hand it to Anjanita when you come up. This makes sure we have an accurate record for the hearing. Please note, if you wish to testify, if you wish to have your position listed on the committee statement for a particular bill, you must testify during that position during that bill hearing. If you do not wish to testify but would like your position recorded on that bill, please fill out a gold sheet near the entrance. I will also note the legislator policy that all letters for the record must be received via the online comments portal by the committee noon the prior day to the hearing. Any handouts submitted by how does that work if it's a holiday before? No, since we're the committee, it always starts on the holiday. On the holiday before, we will take them till Anjanita, 11 a.m. work?
Yeah.
11 a.m. If it's a holiday preceding the hearing. So that's what we're going to do in this committee. That is what it is. Testimony for each bill will begin with the introducer's opening statement. After the opening statement, we will hear from the supporters of the bill, then from those in oppositions, followed by those speaking in a neutral capacity. The introducer of the bill will be given the opportunity to make a closing statement if they wish to do so. We ask that you begin your testimony by spelling your first and last name for the record. We will also be using the 4-minute light system. When your testimony begins, the light will be green. Yellow means there's 1 minute left, and red means please wrap it up. I would like to remind everyone, including senators, please turn off or silence your cell phones. With that, we will begin with LB 820. Welcome, Senator Hanson. Sorry. Welcome to your Urban Affairs Committee, Senator Hanson.
Thank you, Senator Wayne and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. For the record, my name is Matt Hanson, M-A-T-T-H-A-N-S-E-N, and I represent District 26, which is in Northeast Lincoln. I'm introducing LB 820, which is a straightforward bill that would raise the population threshold for cities of a metropolitan class from cities with a population of over 300,000 to cities with a population of over 400,000. This would mean the population threshold for cities of the primary class would be changed to cities with a population of over 100,000 and less than 400,000. Currently, the city of Lincoln is the only primary class city in Nebraska, and they are quickly approaching the 300,000 person threshold, having a census population of 291,082 people in the 2020 census. If they were to cross over the 300 threshold before we changed it, we would have no cities of the primary class here in Nebraska. I've worked closely with the city of Lincoln on this bill, and they will have someone here behind me to testify why the benefits of staying in the primary city class at this time. With that, I'll close. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? All right, thank you. First up are proponents. welcome to your Urban Affairs Committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Wayne and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Johansi Christie, YOHANCE I'm the city attorney for the city of Lincoln. I'm here on behalf of the city of Lincoln in support of LB 820. I want to thank the members of the committee for your time today on this matter, and thank you to Senator Hansen for working with the city of Lincoln on the introduction of this bill. LB 820 seeks to change the population thresholds for cities of the primary class and for cities of the metropolitan class. Currently, in the existing law, cities of the primary class are those with population between 100,000 and 300,000, as stated by Senator Hansen. And again, Lincoln is the only city that falls within that population threshold and is therefore the only city of a primary class. As laid out by Senator Hansen, again, we would like to bump the population threshold for cities of the primary class up to 400,000 people. In the most recent census, Lincoln's population was approximately 291,000 people. Obviously, this is below the 300,000 limit within the statute. However, it did exceed our projections of where we thought the population might be. We believe it's time to come to the legislature before the next census. If Lincoln had been over 300,000 people, then we would have become a metropolitan class city, and that would have made our life as a city very difficult. This is why I'm here supporting this bill to move the population maximum up to 400,000 for a city of primary class. Even though both Omaha and Lincoln have adopted home rule charters, there are still very practical changes that would take place if Lincoln were to become a metropolitan class city. This change would impact our continuity of operations. There are a lot of things that I think would change, but some of the more obvious changes would be that the composition of the Lincoln City Council would change. The council seats would need to be divided by districts. That's not something that we do now. Cities of the metropolitan class also have a separate transit authority that's different than what we currently do in Lincoln. The current public transportation model resides in our Transportation Utilities Department, which is a department within the city. If Lincoln were to implement a land bank, we would have different thresholds than what was negotiated in the compromise legislation from a few years back. There are other things on the list as far as structural changes, including changes to the Board of Plumbers, annexation ability, utility structure, and many other policy areas. City of Lincoln reached out to both the City of Omaha and the League of Municipalities in drafting this bill to make sure that the proposed population thresholds worked for everyone. I believe that you will hear from the City of Omaha and that they support this change. This current system works for the City of Lincoln, it works for the City of Omaha, and it works for the state of Nebraska. Thank you again, Senator Hansen, for introducing this bill, and to the committee for your time. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
Senator Hunt.
Thank you, Chairman Wayne. Hi, Mr. Christie. Thanks for being here today.
Sure.
If we don't pass this bill, how long would Lincoln have to comply with, the transportation changes and all the stuff that you would have to do in order to be compliant with the law as a city of the metropolitan class? What's like the buffer time?
Thank you, Senator Hunt, for your question. While I don't have a specific time frame to tell you right now, I'd be happy to follow up with you and give you an exact time frame. I mean, certainly we have not been in that situation before, and so I'm not sure off the top of my head what
Sure.
sort of buffer period we would have.
I can look that up too. Like, I wonder, or I could talk to committee council. Like, I wonder if that's in statute or something. Like, if a city transitions between classes, obviously that would be a very expensive change, but how much time would you have to implement that change?
I'd be happy to follow up.
Maybe then an answer is forthcoming, actually. But yeah, hopefully we can get this done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Art.
Thank you. A couple of questions. How's metropolitan defined?
By population, and right now it's what, over 300,000.
So are we proposing a change for the metropolitan
Correct,
class as well?
correct,
So both would change.
correct.
You would just bump that up. And second question, are you aware, is there any other city that's bumping up against the 100,000?
I'm not aware. I think
No.
that, yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think that any city is close
Okay.
enough to
So we
be
don't have-
asking for
The bottom
legislation.
threshold isn't the problem, the top threshold is the problem.
Correct.
So right now, I don't believe, but we'll just check with the league to send out an email to them to verify if we have, since it's open up part of the section of law, we'll just look at it for an amendment if there is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? I sent you some cool pictures.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, proponent. Welcome to your Urban Affairs Committee.
Thank you. Senator Wayne, members of the committee, my name is Lynn Rex, Lynnrex, representing the League of Nebraska Municipalities. We're here in strong support of this bill. This is very consistent with what this body has done over a period of years, with cities going a little bit up or a little bit under. And in this case, we strongly support this because this is what needs to happen. There's a lot of cost involved when you're switching cities. And Senator Hunt, to your point, there is no space in between. In other words, it's magic. You get to 300,000, you're it. And the same thing with municipalities. When Ogallala, a bill was passed, which came through this committee years ago, as they went below 5,000 and they wanted to retain their status as a city of the first class. Falls City, Fairbury, other changes have been made over the years to allow cities to have some flexibility in the same way that villages, even if they drop below 100 or go above 800, can retain their status. There's a process for that, and it's a little bit different for every municipality in those classes. And as you know, we have 5 classes of cities, 5 forms of government. The classifications of cities are based on population only. The other classifications are first class, second class, village, metropolitan class, and primary class. There is a tremendous cost to go back and redo all your ordinances and comport with everything else as you go from one class to the next, which is why everybody really goes to the mat to try to not do that. So we strongly support this. We think it is the right thing to do, not only for the citizens of Lincoln, but obviously for Omaha as well. And I believe the question was, is anyone else getting up to the 100,000 threshold? The 2 closest cities would be the only cities that would be around 50,000, Grand Island and Bellevue, and neither one are even close to 100,000. They would love to be, but they're not there yet. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the committee? I just want to come up with a different name than second class, so if we could
They
brainstorm
do
over
too.
that, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Let's
If
figure it
you-
out. We'll figure it out over the
It would
interim.
be a magic bullet. I will tell you that we've got 2 legislative committees internally. The smaller cities legislative committee comprised of about 30 to 40 representatives of second-class cities and villages. The larger cities legislative committee center comprised of representatives of Omaha, Lincoln, and all cities of the first class. There's about 60 on there when you consider the mayors and the city administrators and so forth. Cities of second class, this has been a burr under their saddle forever, okay?
We'll fix
And
this issue.
then we came up with some great ideas. They did cities of the premium class. Sure, no, I'm not kidding. You think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. Other sorts of examples. And then the first class cities, like Kearney and Grand Island would say, oh, no. Then we're the premium plus class. So it's a little more difficult than one would think, but being cities of the second class has not been a walk in the park. And they're not, I don't know how that came about. Christy and I can honestly say we had nothing to do. It would have been different. We're visionary. We would not have let that happen. But thanks for the question.
Thank you. Any other questions? See, then thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for your consideration.
Any other proponents? Welcome to your Urban Affairs.
Good afternoon, Senator Wayne, members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Jack Aloha. That's Jack. Last name is spelled Cheeloha. I'm the lobbyist for the city of Omaha, and I want to testify in favor of LB 820 this afternoon. First of all, Lincoln was very gracious and reached out to us in advance of this bill being introduced and wanted to get our thoughts on it since Omaha was the only metropolitan class city in the state right now. I think in order to not upset the apple cart of the classes of city, this is a good bill. It's forward-looking. And one last tidbit that I wanted to share with you, Omaha's official population after the 2020 census was 486,051 people. So we're 86,000 above what would be the new, threshold of 400,000. So I think that's appropriate. And for those reasons, we want to support Lincoln and this bill, LB 820. I'll try to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Any other proponents? Welcome to your Urban Affairs Committee.
Good afternoon, Senator Wayne and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Bud Synhorst, BUDSYNHORST, and I'm the President and CEO of the Lincoln Independent Business Association. We represent over 1,000 businesses in Lincoln and Lancaster County and pride ourselves in being involved in policy matters which we believe benefit and impact Lincoln and the surrounding area and our local businesses. I want to thank you for your time today. I'm here to support LB 820. This obviously has been said, updates the threshold for cities of the primary and metropolitan class. These changes made in this bill will be beneficial for the city of Lincoln. This would help avoid unnecessary and significant challenges for our city. If Lincoln were moved to a metropolitan classification, obviously the requirements to change processes in multiple areas, utility services, land banking provisions and elections, all of those types of things seem to be a way to clean up this bill and avoid some of these unnecessary and unforeseen logistical burdens on the city of Lincoln. Historically, because of the unique natures of Lincoln and Omaha, the legislature has chosen to separate them by class to ensure there's no violation of the special class rule by singling out any one city in legislation. Lincoln is unique partially because of our state being our state's capital city. It makes sense to be able to classify these cities with their unique needs from one another. As was previously mentioned, this was something that was discussed pretty extensively during negotiations here in the past couple of years over the land bank bill. And so we were waiting for the census to be completed in order to see where Lincoln fell in that capacity. So for those reasons, we stand in support of advancing LB 820 out of the committee to general file. Thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none,
Thank you very much.
Any other proponents? Any opponents? Anybody testify in the neutral capacity? Seeing none, Senator Hansen.
Thank you. I'll close real briefly, just saying we've worked a lot on population thresholds in a lot of places, and this is kind of a continued effort of that. The thought of like what would happen if you hit the threshold, it does kind of appear that it's magically overnight. You're supposed to just be in compliance. And so that's partially why we moved the threshold. We've also clarified that it's as of the census count, so you can't necessarily be forced to change the threshold. This is prior legislation based on estimates. That was an issue that happened to kind of Lancaster counties. Everybody thought they were near the threshold, but no, it was in between censuses, so we didn't actually truly know. And totally on board with renaming the classes of cities. If we want to be a capital class or something, we'll figure it out.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for being here. We have nothing for the letter of support. So we'll close the hearing on LB 820 and open the hearing on LB 724.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Wayne and fellow members of the Urban Affairs Committee. For the record, my name is Senator Matt Hansen, MATTHANSEN, and I represent District 26 in Northeast Lincoln. I'm here today to introduce LB 724, which would make changes to the Local Option Municipal Economic Development Act, often referred to as LB 840. Specifically to be utilized for development and implementation of an affordable housing action plan, as well as construction of housing as a part of an affordable housing action plan. For background, in 1991, the legislature passed LB 840, which authorized cities and villages to appropriate local sales and property tax revenues for certain economic development purposes. In 2016, we authorized LB 840 to be used for workforce housing under a workforce housing plan. In 2020, we passed the Municipal Density and Missing Middle Housing Act, which incentivizes affordable housing projects by requiring affordable housing action plans. These plans are a key step to promoting the growth of housing options in our cities. So I believe it makes sense to incentivize the creation and implementation of these plans through utilizing LB 840 funds if that is the direction the city wants to go. LB 724 would also add that economic development program can include the construction of housing as part of affordable housing action plan, including any plan required under the Municipal Density and Missing Middle Housing Act. LB 724 also restructures some of the section as suggested by Committee Council and the Reviser of Statutes Office. For example, previously some components of 840 programs could be used for grants and loans, while others could be used for grants, loans, and funds, with the distinction between those two lists being unclear. The new language standardizes these terms and restructures the section a bit to accommodate that clarification. In closing, this bill is an opportunity to further support our cities in their pursuit of affordable housing that best fits their needs and their community. With that, I'll close and be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thanks for your introduction.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome up any proponents of LB 724. Welcome to your Urban Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Senator Hunt. It's good to see all of you. My name is Christy Abraham, CHRISTY ABRAHAM. I'm here representing the League of Nebraska Municipalities, and I want to start by thanking Senator Hansen and his office for reaching out to the League about this bill. We were very anxious to review it, and I know that you have all heard the League say multiple times to this committee, affordable housing is such a big issue for most every municipality out there. And so we're so grateful for Senator Hansen to come up with some creative and different ways for municipalities to address that issue. Senator Hansen did a great job in his opening, explaining what the bill does and the LB 840 program. This committee has heard many bills on LB 840, and typically it's a situation where local funds are being used to a qualifying business to help that business get started in that municipality. And this is expanding it just a little bit to allow those funds to be used for cities to create their affordable action plan. As Senator Hansen mentioned, this committee helped pass the, and I never get the name right, the Municipal Density and Missing Middle Housing Act a couple of years ago. And so there are several municipalities that are required to create these plans now. And so allowing them to use the LB 840 funds will be helpful for them. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about this bill, but we certainly support it. And again, thanks Senator Hansen for bringing it to you.
Thank you, Ms. Abraham. Any questions from the committee? Senator Lowe.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Ms. Abraham. How many programs are there to help affordable housing, whether it's state, local, federal?
Wow.
Do you have any idea?
Okay, you are taxing my memory. There's going to be several. Certainly LB 840 is one of them. I would count tax increment financing, TIF, to be in that category. There's community block grant funds, that's on the federal level. There are probably a couple of state programs. I'm forgetting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Senator Lowe, I'd be happy to research that further and get you a more comprehensive list, but there are several on both the state and federal level.
Is there any way that we can get all these programs to work together so that it may help better the outcome of affordable housing in Nebraska, so that instead of competing against each other and instead of trying to infringe on another program, which may happen, to maybe work together so that we can use the dollars best spent?
Sure, I certainly appreciate that sentiment. And I will tell you that municipalities they're looking at all of these programs and are trying to work with them and do the best they can to to work within the parameters of those programs. With LB 840, as Senator Hansen said, this was developed in 1991, and it didn't start out as an affordable housing bill. It started out as I live in the city of Kearney and we need a supermarket. LB 840 funds are going to help encourage the development of a grocery store in Kearney. And so I think its origins were very different than affordable housing. As he mentioned, over the years, affordable housing has been added to this act to help with that issue because it has become such a great need. But it wasn't, LB 40, that wasn't the origins of these funds. So I understand your concerns. There's sort of different elements and processes you have to go through for different kinds of programs.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Any other proponents for LB 724? Welcome. Good afternoon. Take these masks off. Members of the Urban Affairs Committee, my name is Carol Bodine, CAROLBODEEN. And I'm the Director of Policy and Outreach for the Nebraska Housing Developers Association. NHDA is often what we are referred to. I am testifying in support of LB 724. A little bit about NHDA. We are a membership organization with over 70 members from across Nebraska. And our mission is to champion affordable housing. We do this by supporting statewide renter and homebuyer education programs, offering assistance to affordable housing developers, and by advocating for policies that support safe and affordable housing. It's our goal that Nebraskans of every income have the cornerstone foundation of a healthy and affordable home. Our members include nonprofit and for-profit developers, nonprofit organizations that provide housing services, government agencies, and economic development organizations. We work collaboratively with the Nebraska Economic Developers Association, NEDA. NEDA is a professional membership organization made up of more than 300 developers, utility representatives, and city and regional professionals from across Nebraska. I'm here today on behalf of the Nebraska Housing Developers Association and the Nebraska Economic Developers Association in support of LB 724. As you're aware, following the successful passage of LB 866, the Municipal Density and Missing Middle Housing Act, cities with population of 20,000 or more are working to develop affordable housing action plans. LB 724 will assist cities with the Local Option Municipal Economic Development Act, LB 840 funds, to be able to more easily use these funds to help plan for and fund affordable housing. Amendments to the Local Option Municipal Economic Development Act in 2016 with LB 1059 authorized uses of these funds for the construction or rehabilitation of housing as part of a workforce housing plan. LB 724 will more fully define those uses to include affordable housing action plans. LB 840 funds, as you know, are a valuable local economic development tool, which allows communities to exercise local control over how to spend their tax dollars in ways that are best suited to meet their own specific economic development needs. Housing in general, and specifically affordable housing, is a real and current need in all of our Nebraska communities. And LB 724 will ensure that communities utilizing the LB 840 programs will be able to use these funds for planning, implementing, developing, constructing, or rehabilitating affordable housing. I ask that you support and advance LB 724, and I thank you for the opportunity and would take any questions from the committee. Thank you, Ms. Bodine. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thanks for taking the time to talk to us
Thank
today.
you so much.
Any other proponents for LB 724? Seeing none, any opponents? Anyone here to testify in the neutral capacity? Seeing none, Senator Hansen, you're invited up to close on LB724.
Thank you, Vice Chair Hunt and members of the committee. And I thank you to the testifiers who came in. So this bill very specifically, is to clarify a little bit of the existing LB 840 status, as well as give a small expansion into the amount of housing they can already do with those funds. There's some start and some authorizations for workforce and low income, and this would just kind of clarify a broader category of affordable housing. I wish Senator Wayne was here. Senator Lowe, to your point, the lack of coordination on state housing programs has been an issue that several of us, including Senator Wayne, have identified. And he's introduced a bill to create a housing department just today that I know myself and some other senators have co-sponsored. So that is a concern that we have so many different programs split across state agencies. Specific to this one, though, this is a solely local program where it's local cities using their own local resources to administer the program. So this, in any instances, will be run by the municipality. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Senator Hansen. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, we have no letters for the record.
Thank you.
On this bill, so I'll close the hearing on LB 724, and we'll move on to LB 799. This is a committee bill, and so we'll have our committee counsel, Trevor Fitzgerald, introduce it.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairwoman Hunt and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. For the record, my name is Trevor Fitzgerald, Trevor Fitzgerald, and I'm introducing LB 799 on behalf of the committee. In 2020, the legislature passed LB 866, which, among other things, adopted the Municipal Density and Missing Middle Housing Act. Among the requirements in the act, on or before July 1st, 2021, and every 2 years thereafter, each city of the metropolitan class, city of the primary class, and city of the first class with a population over 20,000 must submit a report to the Urban Affairs Committee regarding its current efforts to address the availability of and incentives for affordable housing. During the 2021 interim, the Urban Affairs Committee received the first set of required reports under the act, which were presented at a pair of interim study hearings on LR 69, an interim study to receive reports and public input under the act. LB 799 is designed to clarify and update the reporting provisions under the act based off feedback provided by various municipalities during and after the hearings on LR 69. Current language in the act uses the phrase "in the city" to describe information to be included in reports to the committee. In compiling and submitting their reports this summer, several cities expressed confusion over whether "in the city" meant simply the corporate limits of the city, or whether "in the city" should also include the extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction, or ETJ, of the city. LB 799 would clarify that "in the city" means within the corporate limits. The bill also clarifies how cities should report the percentage of the city which permits the construction or multifamily housing or middle housing, by providing that the city should identify whether areas are specifically zoned for residential use or generally allow residential use, as well as whether construction is permitted, quote unquote, by right, or requires any additional permitting, such as a conditional use permit. Finally, LB 799 changes the definition of affordable housing in the Act to update the income limits set forth by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development under federal law. I believe several individuals are behind me to testify, but I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you. I'll invite up the first proponent of LB 799. Seeing none, any proponents? No, that's okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back.
Thank you, Senator Hunt, members of the committee. My name is Lynn Rex, Lynnrex, representing the League of Nebraska Municipalities, and we support this bill as written. We do have some municipalities that have a concern about extending it to the ETJ, and including that. I know Omaha would like that, and we would support having a metropolitan class city have that authority. We've just heard from other cities that they're concerned about it. But with that, we think this is a good bill, and we appreciate the explanation of committee council. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Rex. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none,
Thank you very much.
thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Any other proponents of LB 799?
Good afternoon, Senator and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Jack Chaloha, that's spelled J-A-C-K. Last name is C-H-E-L-O-H-A. I'm testifying on behalf of the City of Omaha in support of LB 799 today. First of all, we support the cleanup within the bill itself. I think it's a good thing that when I talked to Omaha's planning department, that they were aware of the bill and they were aware of some of the questions they had on the original bill passed in 2020. And to me, that makes me feel good because that means they take it seriously and they're working hard and they want to give you, the committee, a good report. And for those reasons, I'm glad that they're engaged, and most of our suggestions were taken and made within the reporting requirements. However, I did want to take a look at on page 3, line 27. So obviously the bill clarifies now that it would be within the corporate limits. Our planning department asked me to make a request, and that's not necessarily something that would be a huge difference to us, but we feel it would give a better picture of Omaha as a whole, if you will, relative to affordable housing and municipal density, et cetera. Omaha, in order to do its development, typically relies upon SIDs, which are plotted and planned and approved by the city within our ETJ or 3-mile extraterritorial zoning limits. And with that, when we provide the report on what policies and programs we have in place to make sure we're meeting the need, we want you to be aware of not only within the corporate city limits, but within Omaha's structure and how we do housing. We wanted you to also see what we had planned relative to those plots that we approve within our ETJ. And for us, we just thought it would give you a better, broader picture of it. And so for that, we'd make the request, but we'll be happy to comply either way. We just thought it might be more meaningful to you if you included the ETJ for metropolitan class cities. That's all.
Okay,
I'll try to answer any questions for you.
thanks, Mr. Choloha. Any questions from the committee? Senator Arch.
Okay, so
Yes,
I'm
sir.
not familiar with the technical. ETJ, is that the same as saying zoning jurisdiction?
Correct. I mean, we have more authority in the ETJ other than zoning, but that's what we've called it. And I think it's a recognized term of art by this committee, extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction, ETJ. And for metro class cities, it's 3 miles outside the city limit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Arch. Thanks for being here
Great.
today.
Thank you.
Any other proponents of LB 799? Anyone here in opposition? Anyone neutral? Seeing none, Mr. Fitzgerald, are you interested in closing? While he gets to the mic, we also have a letter for the record on LB 799 from Gina Ragland, who is a proponent representing AARP Nebraska.
Thank you, Senator Hunt. And I don't usually close on committee technical bills, but the testimony raised an issue that I probably should have raised in my introduction. The city of Omaha did reach out to Senator Wayne's office about the potential addition of the ETJ language to the bill. At Senator Wayne's direction, I reached out to the League of Municipalities to make sure all of the affected cities would be okay with that. Some cities were concerned that they might not have the capabilities to provide data on the ETJ as well, which is why there was not an amendment in your packet to add the ETJ. But if that's something the committee wanted to do, either for all cities or just for cities of the metropolitan class, that's obviously a policy decision for the committee. But just wanted to provide that explanation and answer any other questions that committee members might have.
Thanks so much. Any other questions? Seeing none, appreciate that. Next up, we have LB 800. I think this is our final bill today.
It is.
Yeah.
Break the bone getting that out.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairwoman Hunt and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. Again, for the record, my name is Trevor Fitzgerald, Trevor Fitzgerald, and I'm introducing LB 800 on behalf of the committee. As I think everyone on the committee knows, in 2015, the Urban Affairs Committee began a multi-year effort to update and modernize statutes governing the various classes of municipalities. Over the past few years, the committee has introduced bills to update statutes governing cities of the first class in Chapter 16, cities of the second class and villages in Chapter 17, some but not all classes of municipalities in Chapter 19, cities of the primary class in Chapter 15, and all classes of municipalities in Chapter 18. In 2021, the committee introduced LR 122, an interim study to examine statutes in Chapter 14, governing cities of the metropolitan class. LB 800 is the work product of the LR 122 interim study and would have been various sections of statute in Chapter 14 to make a variety of cleanup changes. And I will note that, yes, this is the last chapter of municipal statutes, so theoretically this would be our last massive cleanup bill. I know you're all heartbroken. Because LB 800 amends more than 300 separate sections, I will not review each individual change contained in the bill. A section-by-section summary is contained in your materials, and the changes can largely be grouped into 11 different categories. First, the bill changes and corrects terminology, for example, changing governing body to city council, municipality to city, metropolitan class city to city of the metropolitan class. Second, the bill changes subject-verb agreement in a number of places, i.e. singular to plural and vice versa. Third, the bill clarifies references to cities' corporate limits and extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction, or ETJ. Currently, statutes refer to the ETJ in several different ways. Some use the phrase extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction, some use zoning jurisdiction, and some use a lengthy reference to all property located within a 3-mile radius of the city. Similar to how past cleanup bills have handled this issue, LB 800 would change all references to the ETJ to use the consistent term extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction. And I will note, because the question Senator Arch asked on the previous bill, sometimes the phrase zoning jurisdiction can refer to both the corporate limits and the ETJ, which is why using the phrase extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction is what we've done in these cleanup bills. Fourth, the bill clarifies references to various types of improvement districts. Several sections in Articles 3 and 5 of Chapter 14 refer to various types of improvement districts, street improvement districts, sidewalk improvement districts, etc. LB 800 attempts to consolidate the references to the various types of improvement districts so that it's clear which statutes govern which types of district. Fifth, the bill clarifies references to legal newspapers. As the committee has found with previous cleanup bills, the various sections of statute refer to newspapers used for legal notices in different ways, located in the city, published in the city, of general circulation of the city. Additionally, some statutes specify that the notice must be published in a legal newspaper, while others just specify a newspaper. LB 800 would use the same phrasing in all cases, published for period X in a legal newspaper in or of general circulation in the city. The bill uses the term legal newspaper since there is an existing statutory definition of legal newspaper, and according to the Nebraska Press Association, every newspaper in the state of Nebraska currently meets that definition. I would note that unlike other classes of municipalities, cities of the metropolitan class have a procedure for designating a quote-unquote official newspaper, which can be found in Section 205 of the bill. Because of the use of the term official newspaper, there are fewer overall references to legal newspapers, but there was one unusual quirk that needed to be addressed. On page 134, there's a provision for what the city should do in cases where the official newspaper refuses or neglects to publish a required notice. Current language provides that the city should post that notice at a conspicuous place in City Hall, and LB 800 would require that the city also post the notice on their website in, again, the extremely unlikely event that the official newspaper doesn't publish the required notice. Going back to the list of changes, sixth, the bill corrects references to various city officials, clearly identifying the city council, city clerk, city attorney, etc. Seventh, the bill corrects gender references, typically replacing his with his or her, or them, or some kind of non-gendered reference. 8th, 9th, and 10th, the bill corrects internal statutory references, eliminates a number of run-on sentences, and harmonizes references to other statutory sections within chapter. 14. And finally, LB 800 replaces or eliminates antiquated, obsolete, or unnecessary language in a number of places. As returning committee members may recall, past cleanup bills have similarly eliminated a number of antiquated and archaic terms, including mule, horse, and oxen teams, telegraph poles, hitching posts and rails, night soils, my personal favorites, and police matrons. As noted in your materials, LB 800 outright repeals several obsolete sections of statute in Chapter 14. These sections are Section 14-114, which provides the authority for the establishment of a municipal coal yard. Section 14-126, which contains antiquated references to a Board of Public Welfare that no longer exists in the city of Omaha. And Section 14-223, which contains obsolete references to city council members having superintendency over city departments. And Section 14-554, which contains duplicative language regarding compensation for the county treasurer for the collection of taxes and assessments within the boundaries of a city of the metropolitan class. I will note the provisions that are currently in 14-554 mirror the provisions in Section 33-114 of state statute, a copy of which is included in your materials. After the bill was introduced, several additional cleanup changes were identified in sections 25 and 155 of the bill. It was also discovered that in sections 36 and 205, the word daily was inadvertently struck from previous provisions requiring publication in either the official newspaper or a daily legal newspaper. Committee members should have received a copy of AM 1603 this morning, which would make those additional cleanup changes as well as restore the word daily in those two locations in the bill. Prior to the introduction of LB 800, the bill was reviewed by various city officials from the city of Omaha, including city legal department and the city clerk's office that provided feedback and suggestions. There are several individuals here to testify behind me, including the city of Omaha and the League of Municipalities, but I would be happy to answer any questions the committee may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Any questions from the committee? Are you going to miss cleaning up Chapter 14?
Technically, the bill doesn't clean up all of Chapter 14. The provisions related to Metropolitan Utilities District are at the tail end of Chapter 14. We left that out of this one, but so I suppose if I'm bored, we've got something for next year.
Thanks, Trevor. Anyone here to testify in support of LB 800? Welcome.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Hunt and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Jack Chaloha. That's J-A-C-K. Last name is C-H-E-L-O-H-A. I'm the lobbyist for the city of Omaha, and I want to testify in support of LB 800 this afternoon. First of all, thank you very much to the committee and to your staff, and particularly Trevor, for all his hard work on this bill. We had plenty of warning that Omaha's turn in the barrel was coming because, as they mentioned, they did the other classes of cities the prior years. So we knew this bill was coming. I guess I didn't realize it was going to end up being 207 pages worth of bill, but that's a lot of cleanup. But nevertheless, it's almost rewriting the whole, Chapter 14 and putting it back in the front of you on LB 800. So when Trevor reached out to us and he gave us good notice in order to look at the drafts and to work through it. So as he mentioned, I shared it with our city clerk's office, our city law department, our city planning, our city finance, and our public works department, because we thought those were the city departments that were probably the ones that deal with state law mostly within Chapter 14. They weren't quite as enthusiastic in terms of getting back to me on this bill as they were on the affordable housing and density issues, but nevertheless they did take a look at it and offer some helpful suggestions, because the goal from the beginning was always to make sure that it truly was just a cleanup and we weren't doing any substantive changes, if you will. To me, the thing that I can recollect most substantive substantive changes that we put within the bill are actually the naming of the city departments. We had, as was mentioned, the welfare board or health department of the city. We no longer operate that. It's a domain of the county. And so it truly is a cleanup, and we recognize the departments that we have within our home rule charter. So that way it's within the statute and they mirror each other, and we know what's going on there. And like I said, I mean, we didn't want to change anything regarding, at least substantively regarding the notices, et cetera. So we're good with the amendments that have been offered to you as well. And once again, it was a lot of work. It took a lot of reading, but we made it this far. And so we would support LB 800 and the bill before you. Thank you. I'll try to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Lowe.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chiloa. After reviewing this and looking at it, is there anything that Trevor missed, and should he start over?
No, I think we're good, at least with metropolitan class cities. I'll be anxious to see, maybe next year when MUD is under the gun, our public utility that operates the water and gas in Omaha, and we'll see if they can get their stuff figured out and cleaned up. But I mean, it's a thick bill. There's a lot of changes, but I feel fairly confident, or almost 99% confident, that we're not doing anything substantively and we're really cleaning it up. And so thank you, Senator Lowe.
Any other questions for Mr. Chaloha?
Seeing none, thank you so much for your testimony
Thank you.
today. Any other proponents for LB 800?
Good afternoon, members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Christy Abraham, CHRISTYABRAHAM, and I represent the League of Nebraska Municipalities. And we just want to say a big thank you to this committee and your staff. When Trevor said you started this project in 2015, it reminded me that I still worked in the bill drafting office in 2015, and I believe I started with the cities of the first class bill. It's probably the worst drafted bill you had in your cleanup series, but that was mine. And ever since then, I've been working at the League, and I just want to say, as much work as I know this has all been, League staff is looking at these municipal statutes all the time. We have cities calling us every day asking questions about these statutes, and I just want to tell you, they are so much easier to read. They're better organized, better written, easy to understand, and we're just so grateful for this committee that for the last 7 years you've done this. I recommend you do SIDs next, Trevor, but I'm sure I don't get a vote on that. But we just want to say how much we appreciate it and fully support LB 800. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Norm, I don't like, once I miss, I don't like taking back over. No, any questions from the committee? SIDs are a sore subject.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I didn't mean, yeah, you just got here. I'm sorry, Senator Wade.
Yeah, not with me, Senator Arch. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Any other proponents? Any opponents? Anybody in the neutral capacity? Seeing none, Trevor, you have closing. Closing this way, we have any, no letters? That will close the hearing on LB 800, and in today's hearing, we can stay around for like 10 minutes and